about Brexit, about me, about all the people who in the end took part in that campaign, and we saw that actually there was a majority view that supported those things that I'd fought for. So it proved to be the right thing to have backed. Robert says, please get a new name for your party now that you've achieved Brexit. We need a patriotic party to unite the disgruntled people of Britain. Well, look, the Brexit Party came about, as you know. It was launched within 6 weeks. It had won the European elections. Without that, we wouldn't have Brexit. Without that, I've no doubt we'd be close now to a second referendum or goodness knows what else. We did our job on the big ticket of what the name of the party was. We are still in negotiations, and whilst I have to say there is much this government has done and is doing that I am deeply, deeply critical of, thus far their chief negotiator, David Frost, is, it seems to me, saying, and I believe doing, the right things in making sure that we become an independent country with a completely new set of arrangements. Now, if you go back over the last quarter of a century, every time one has placed their faith in the Conservative Party to deliver on their promises, you've been let down like a cheap pair of braces. So it's not to say there won't be a last-minute sellout, but something in me says there probably won't be. Because I think Boris Johnson is bright enough, and those around him are bright enough to know that if they were to fall at the final hurdle, to leave us aligned to single market rules or whatever it may be, unable to conduct our own trade deals, that their political support would literally fall off a cliff. A lot of those people who voted Brexit Party had lent their votes from Labour. They then, having voted away from the Labour Party, voting for us, voted Conservative. But again, in fact, I often joke that we were the gateway drug to Boris winning his majority. But they are lent votes, they are mobile votes. And Boris knows, if he lets people down on this one big promise, he'll be out. So I think Brexit is going to get delivered. If you're enjoying this, please share this Facebook Live. So look, let's see. The Brexit Party is here. It needs to be here as an insurance policy in case this still goes wrong. And if we, folded up our tents tomorrow, it'd make it easier for them to give in and make last-minute concessions. So I still believe the presence of the Brexit Party, the threat of the Brexit Party is still very important. Beyond that, is there a need for a patriotic party in British politics? Almost certainly there is. But let's just see through and see the last phase of this Brexit process. Sally Ann says to me, when are the government going to help our veterans? Too many suicides. Well, Sally Ann, I had one this morning. I had a letter this morning from somebody talking about an SAS guy who committed suicide just last week. And we're kind of in an environment where the death of certain people seems to matter more than the death of others. It's a difficult place that we're in. What is amazing when you go to America is to see the respect with which their veterans are treated. I mean, it's, you're boarding a plane, an internal flight in America. Will those come forward first, who are elderly, with children, or veterans? And veterans have their badges, they get on planes first, they get treated with a remarkable degree of respect. And kind of what we've done from Blair's time onwards is to expect our military forces to do more and more and more. And yet our veterans, it seems, in too many cases, have been treated with too little respect. Colin says, Nigel, can you do another interview with Candace Owens? What a breath of fresh air she is. Colin, what you don't know is that Candace married a good friend of mine, George Farmer, last year, and I was honoured to go to the wedding in Virginia, and I was honoured to be asked to propose a toast to the happy couple, which I went to Virginia and very gladly did. And I've been a friend of Candace's, following Candace since way before, she was as well known as she currently is. Joe Biden, when you said that all black people had to vote Democrat, well, I tell you what, there are some, actually, perhaps even a growing number, that do vote Republican. But I agree, Candace is a very important part of this whole debate. And isn't it interesting that the debates we're having here, the debates happening in America, the debates happening in Australia and in so many other countries, they're all pretty much the same debate. This is all about, do you want to live in a nation-state democracy that has respect for what it is, respect for its history, and wants to move forward on an independent basis? Or are you with the globalists, and now indeed the Marxists, who would break down the nation-state and replace it with some form of global government? That's not an exaggeration. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's actually what they want to do. Ed says, will you be raising a glass to that nice Mr. Davey after his touching concern for your welfare? So, Mr. Davey. Ed, it's not Mr. Davey. No. It's Sir Ed Davey. Please show the acting leader of the Liberal Democrats with a little bit more respect. He's been knighted for doing his best to give away our country to Brussels. It's a great honour. He must be absolutely thrilled. And now he's running, of course, to become official leader of the Liberal Democrats. He's just got a big donation in from somebody who is on the advisory board of Huawei, the Chinese telecoms company. Kind of tells you about all you need to know. So he demanded that the police hunt me down on Saturday for going to the pub, because by his calculation, I'd only been back 13 days from the United States of America, because I went over to see Trump's first rally in Tulsa. To Ed, I would say, depends how you count on your fingers. I made it 14. But even if you want to split hairs over a few hours, just try this for size. I've been tested in America before I got on the plane and left to come back. I was tested in this country not long after I'd landed. The symptoms of this virus can incubate. Having the virus does not incubate. Either you've caught it or you haven't. I think it was far from irresponsible to go to the pub after a couple of weeks of lying very, very low indeed. I had been tested, I'd done all the right things, and the NHS website says, if you have tested negative, there is no need to self-isolate. So frankly, I think a lot of this stuff that's been talked about quarantine, frankly, is a bit ridiculous. Maybe it was put in place, maybe it was written the way that it was, because our testing capacity in this country was simply so pitiful. Okay, let's keep going. Nigel, what about doing a weekly evening broadcast like this at 7 p.m. each week? Well, I may well do that. I was broadcasting every day at 6 p.m, but of course that's no longer an option to me. All I can say to you, Nigel, is if there's demand for it, I will do it, and we will ask after this broadcast. We'll look at the numbers, we'll look at the comment pages. If you'd like a regular weekly slot on a Thursday or whatever it is, I could do that if there is enough demand. Teresa asks me, Nigel, could you tell me who you believe is responsible for the care homes in this country and for the deaths? My mother was one of them. Teresa, I am sorry, and we're looking at 25,000 plus people who died prematurely in care homes. Boris Johnson was very clumsy the other day when he said what he said about care homes not having the right procedures in place, and then they tried to get out of it by saying we'd no idea that some people could spread COVID-19 even though they were asymptomatic, which I think is quite a twisting of the truth. One of the things that needs to come out of this is an honest appraisal about the way the National Health Service and Public Health England are run. Now, I know that's difficult to say, and, I've been out myself too, banging away with pots and pans on a Thursday evening to pay respect to people working on the front lines, not just in the health service, but in the care service. And, over 300 of those people have died during this crisis, and we should just, pause for a bit to think about them. But some of the decisions taken by Public Health England, some of the decisions taken by national health managers were appalling. I know of one case where somebody, an elderly man, was sent back to a care home who had tested positive for COVID-19, but the care home weren't even told he'd tested positive and that he'd been back there for several hours. In many other cases, people being sent back from hospitals into care homes who'd not been tested but were positive,